And it looks like we are live. Guys, give me a minute. As you always know, we have to get everybody in here. Let the stream breathe for just a few minutes and get our wonderful Facebook communities in here to join us on a wonderful Friday evening. And now I have to turn my phone off, by the way, because that was really loud. But it looks like we are good to go. Mile high hello, everybody in Broncos country. Welcome into another episode of the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. I am your host, Lance Sanderson, and joining me, as per usual, is my good friend and colleague. He is Mile High Huddle's senior NFL draft analyst, the one and only Erick. Trickel. And dude, you and I, behind the scenes, before we went live, we're talking back and forth about this Raiders game. Lots of different topics we were talking about. But dude, football's back. It was a disappointing loss for the Raiders. Let's move forward. Let's go talk about this game against the Washington Commanders. How are you doing this evening?
Doing good. Tired as always. I mean, it's been a long week breaking down, the Washington Commanders, breaking down the Raiders game and everything, doing all my stuff for that. So it's been a long week. I'm not used to, I get out of that groove when we get after the draft and everything, and I take a step back, and now it's getting back into the groove. And so I'm a little bit exhausted and everything, but I'm excited. Football's back. Would rather be talking about a win than a loss at this point. But hey, is what it is. Hopefully the Broncos rebound this week. They need to. It's coming up on a tough part of their schedule here shortly. Which part of that tough part of that schedule we'll be at the Green Bay Packers game for the meet and greet, for the Mile High Huddle meet and greet, October 22nd against the Green Bay Packers. We will provide more details once we get closer to it and we have more information about it. But make sure you guys who are able and are going to the game, make sure you show up and join us. Look for the Mile High Huddle tent. That's where you'll find all of us. I believe all the podcasters will be there this year. I believe.
Yeah.
And real quick, yes, I'm getting a lot of gray hair. It's why I've been covering up with a hat. It's even grayer than this. It's just still a little wet. Todd, thank you for saying I'm 20 something. I'll be 32 in January. So thank you for that. But I'm tired. Not so much stressed out, but yeah, a lot of gray hair. I'm fortunate enough that I'm turning 32 and still have some color to my hair. My dad had gray hair by the time he was 18. So I'm appreciative that I still have some color to my hair, at least.
Well, at least you have hair, and it's not like the receding hairline. at least you don't have the Peyton Manning 5 head going on over there with the.
Why do you think I keep my hair so long? All this hair is actually up here.
That's fair. So the one nice thing is my beard, down here, is starting to get really gray. I get a whole bunch of gray hairs. I pull them out as fast as I possibly can because I have to keep my youth. I have to keep that youthful pride in me. I'm 32 years old as well, and it pains me. I got the salt and pepper going on in the side of my head as well. It sucks getting old. I hurt all the time. My memory is failing me. I don't remember everything that's going on around. What are we doing here? Anyways,
we're not here to talk about hair.
No, we're here to talk about Denver Broncos football, and quite honestly, it is very frustrating. And like you said, this game against the Washington Commanders coming here on Sunday, 2:25 kickoff time here in the Mile High City it's a very critical game because when you look at this Broncos team, you're talking about a team that's very talented. There's a lot of talent here. There's a lot of optimism. The new head coach in Sean Payton, you think that this team's going to get turned around, and then they go out and they put up 16 points on offense. And it's very disappointing to see that. Losing another game to the Raiders. That's 7 games in a row losing to the Raiders. They got 15 against the Chiefs. This was supposed to be the turnaround. It was absolutely supposed to be the turnaround season, and it's not started off the way that it's supposed to be. And if you want to be a playoff team, you have to win the manageable, winnable games that you have on your home docket specifically. Win every game you have at home, split on the road. It's the easy way to the playoffs. The Broncos lost one that was supposed to be a winnable game to the Raiders last week. They've got a big one against the Washington Commanders here this weekend. Let's say hello to everybody else in the chat. Obviously, the hair comments are fun, and we love just shooting the nonsense with you guys. It's always fun to have everybody here on a Friday evening. We got Todd, we got Chase Wilner in the house, David Youngkin as well, Ernie Mays. We've got Chandler Howard asking, how do I donate? Dude, we appreciate that. We definitely do. You can donate on Super Chat on YouTube. You can also donate some stars on Facebook. If you're not able to figure that out, just keep working at it. We'll figure out a way. Unnecessary. We definitely appreciate that, but always we do appreciate your support here. So Chandler, first time in the chat, thank you for joining us as well. We do have some super chats though. Before we went live, we have David McElrath, Papa Bear in the house saying, good evening, Broncos country, Lance, Eric, Dylan, and Deacon Scott. Hashtag 12-5 plus. It's going to be hard to get there. Hashtag Buckham 3 times. Hashtag MHH for life. Hashtag Denver Broncos for life. And we also have Troy Boer, who is one of the greatest supporters here at Mile High Huddle and the Mile High Huddle podcast network, always jumping in here with another $10 super chat saying, hey guys, excited to see Sean Payton's game plan number 2. The first one was super efficient. A pass rush is our missing ingredient, but I'm sure it will improve without the stop the run first need. Have a great show. Thank you, Troy, for joining us. And Eric, let's just dive a little bit back into this Raiders game really fast. And the second point that he's making here, the pass rush, is the missing ingredient. Vance Joseph kind of talked about that. It was more of like a game plan specific kind of scheme there. But what do the Broncos need to do against this Washington Commanders offensive line that is one of the better units across the NFL?
So I've said this before in multiple conversations that I've had. I don't think a pass rush changes a whole lot from that Raiders game, because when I went through and I focused in on watching that secondary, they were giving up almost instant separation, minus Patrick Surtain, like taking him out of this conversation along with whatever receiver he was going up against. The other corners, the other defensive backs, they were giving up separation almost instantly. And Jimmy Garoppolo works the quick game extremely well. He's very precise with it. It's one of the best things that he does. He can't really push the ball. So that also that does take away from the pass rush a little bit with how quickly he can get the ball out. But when you look at his average time to throw, it was still over 2.5 seconds. It was like 2.7 seconds, if I remember correctly off the top of my head. So he was still holding the ball a decent amount of time that you still want to get after the quarterback. But you get that pass rush going, and he's just speeding up his getting the process out. He's not waiting that extra second or two or extra half second to throw the ball to make sure his read's right. He's just seeing it and he's hitting it. So I don't think a pass rush would have made a significant difference for the Broncos in this one, but it is something that, especially coming into week 2 against Sam Howell, with what we saw the Cardinals were able to do with getting pressure on him, you got to get that pass rush going. And hopefully it was just like a game scheme situation there against the Raiders.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And that actually ties in nicely to our topic for this evening, is the most favorable matchups. We always like to do like deep dive analysis, the most favorable matchups for the Broncos and for the Washington Commanders this week. I actually have the most favorable matchups for the Washington Commanders against the Denver Broncos this week. And quite honestly, the one that we have to keep our eye on the most goes right back to what Eric was talking about in terms of getting the ball out quickly into wide open receivers, according to the coverage of what the Broncos are throwing out there. And last week we saw not only Devontae Adams have a solid game, 6 catches for 66 yards, but Jacoby Myers absolutely torched this Broncos defense, specifically Damari Mathis. We're not going to talk about him tonight because I got a guy right now who's a much better receiver in Jahan Dotson, who's going to line up in the slot. He's a speedy guy, quality route runner. He's going to be going up against a guy in Essang Bassey, who is not quite the speedy player. Let's just put it nicely there. He struggles with deeper routes and keeping up in coverage over the middle of the field. Jahan Dotson is a guy that you really got to watch out for this Washington offense this week.
Yeah, real quick, got a couple of comments here before I get into that. Northcutt coming in saying Eric Barrier quarterback would be a good pick, great pickup for insurance. Fun fact, the Broncos actually held him for a tryout last year and didn't sign him.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So he had a shot. It led to a lot of issues because it was first reported that they were signing him, and then come to find out that they weren't.
Oh, that's right.
And then we have Gary Palmer coming in with the $9.99. Hey, Lance, Eric, and Scott. Unfortunately, no Scott with us tonight. With JJ in the game, we should see better yards. Go Broncos and Buckham. yeah, Jerry Jeudy being back in the game, this is one of my keys for the game. We'll get into that a lot more here in just a little bit. But yeah, like he should help out, especially with where the Commanders are a little weak at. Jerry Jeudy fits in extremely well. Mm-hmm. And then Miguel comes in with some
stars.
What is it on stars on Facebook? Stars. So thank you, Miguel, for that. We appreciate that. We appreciate all your guys' support.
Thanks, guys.
And Phil coming in as well. Good evening, lads. Eric and Deacon Scott praying Mathis has a comeback game. Also, it will be nice to have Moss and JJ play in. All right. So leading up to the show, Lance and I were going back and forth. We didn't really want to talk about Damari Mathis a whole lot, so we'll just get out our stuff on him real quick before we get into Dotson versus Song Bossy here. Damari Mathis had a terrible game against the Raiders. Like the dude allowed almost 10 he was targeted 9 times, allowed 8 catches for almost 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. 7 of the 8 catches he allowed went for a first down or a touchdown. Absolutely terrible game. A lot of his issues were that he was playing tight on the line and just gave no contact. That first touchdown that he allowed to Jacoby Myers, you got to get some contact on the wide receiver off the snap. You can't let him have a clean break for that back shoulder throw. And Mathis does. Like, there were a lot of issues with Mathis that they're probably looking in the film room that they're going to sit there and come back and be like, hey, you got to do this better. As for Riley Moss, I doubt we'll see him on the field a whole lot. This is a dude who's missed all of camp. Mm-hmm. He missed all of preseason. This is his first game back. He just now got back to practicing with a core muscle surgery. It'll probably take him a week or two to get back, into game shape and everything like that before we actually see him on the field. I just don't think that maybe some special teams reps, but even then I question. I wouldn't be surprised if he's inactive for this one.
I'm with you on that. And I want to kind of just elaborate a little bit here on Damari Mathis. I wrote a film breakdown on Alex Singleton on milehighhuddle.com. Go check that out, guys. Alex Singleton in his first series against the Raiders running attack was fantastic. But as I was watching that, I noticed a couple of different things with Damari Mathis. He's misplaying his leverage. When you have inside leverage, when you have outside leverage and you allow an outside route, you need to not allow, especially in the red zone, a receiver to cross your face. And on the first touchdown, Damari Mathis playing with outside leverage allowed Jacoby Myers to cross his face with no press, no jam. On the second touchdown, he's playing with inside leverage and he allows Jacoby Myers to cross his face again. There was another rep where he allowed Jacoby Myers to cross his face while playing with inside leverage, and it should have been another touchdown, but Jacoby Myers dropped the ball in the end zone. 2 plays later, Jimmy Garoppolo actually threw an interception it was a tip pass interception in the end zone. Mathis needs to understand and play to his technique, and that's a big thing. And I know for a fact this defensive coaching staff, Christian Parker, is going to look at him like, hey, dude, understand your leverage, understand your coverage, understand what you need to do, get those jams. That's my last part that I want to get on Damari Mathis. Let's move forward here.
Well, real quick, I got to ask, do you think he has a bounce back game?
It's hard against this wide receiver core. The Commanders have a massive advantage here in the receiver core. Just knowing what they do with Curtis Samuel, lining him all over the field, Jahan Dotson with the speed he plays with, and then Terry McLaurin, who is going to eventually get some opportunities against him. This is going to be a big matchup for Damari Mathis. It's a very difficult matchup for him, especially because he's a little bit stiff in his hips right now, and these guys have massive change of direction ability, and they could potentially take advantage of that. I'm curious to see if they actually get Jaquan McMillan out there, who's a little bit more fluid in his lower half and plays with a little bit better in terms of technique than what Damari Mathis does.
Yeah. For me, one thing I noticed during his rookie year is that he was typically pretty easy to predict. Mm-hmm. If he had a bad game, the next week would be a not as bad, but not a good game either. And then he'd have a few good games, and then it'd be 2 bad ones, not so good ones, and then some good ones. Like, it was just a trend. So I'm curious to see if he breaks it. As you said, this is a tough wide receiver group to go on, which leads to that whole matchup of Asang Basi versus Jahan Dotson. Now, Dotson is their slot receiver. They do move the guys around a lot, but Dotson is typically always lined up in the slot, either on the left or the right. And Basi's going to be the slot corner. Last week I picked Hunter Renfrow versus Song Bossy, and obviously we didn't see that come to fruition. I don't think Renfrow was targeted even once.
I don't think so. No.
But this game's different. Like, there's been some stuff that I've been catching, through Twitter, through some conversations about Hunter Renfrow and issues with McDaniels, and a possible trade stuff there. But anyways, with this is Jahan Dotson, with the way he plays. Asong Bossy's not the fastest of guys out there. He's kind of a plodding runner a little bit. He's not super quick or agile, and Jahan Dotson just eats those type of corners up.
Mm-hmm.
This is a really good pick for a favorable matchup for Washington. And I mean, especially when you have the pressure on Damari Mathis, because you're going to probably see them roll their coverage a little bit to help Damari Mathis, which is going to leave Patrick Surtain more on an island, which we can all trust Patrick Surtain there. And then you're going to be leaving Asong Bossy there, and you got to figure out what you're going to do with your coverage and kind of pick your poison there. So that's definitely a really good matchup on your part to highlight.
One thing I want to actually bring back, and I know that we just got done saying, we're not going to, pile on Damari Mathis here, but with Terry McLaurin, and if they do get Terry McLaurin lined up against Damari Mathis, it's going to be really hard. This wide receiver core is so explosive. Everybody that they have, Terry McLaurin works well over the middle of the field. Curtis Samuel can work out of the backfield on jet sweep, stuff like that. He works well over the middle of the field, can stretch vertically. Jahan Dotson's one of the more explosive players in the league. Like Eric said, you're going to see a lot of rotational coverage. And I think that with Caden Stearns going down with a torn patellar tendon, now you're going to see a lot more of Kareem Jackson out on the field. And that is going to be another big problem because, Eric, I know I don't want to say slander, but the more calling out of Kareem Jackson in terms of he's 34 years old. He's lost a step over the last couple of seasons. And if you're going to see him out there playing in double high coverage, I know Justin Simmons is awesome, but Kareem Jackson in terms of rotating your coverage over, that's a big time mismatch as well.
I will say this in defense of Kareem Jackson, at least we likely won't have to worry a whole lot about Washington taking a bunch of deep shots. That is not Sam Howell's game. It never really has been. There was a play, like 4 plays into the game against the Cardinals, where Curtis Samuel, he lines up to the quarterback's right. He's running. He ends up crossing formation in motion, running a wheel route wide open down the sideline. And Sam Howell staring at him for a good second and a half before peeling his eyes away. And he has a couple hitches there, turning to Jahan Dotson and throwing a low ball to Dotson that Dotson picks up. He just he doesn't have the arm strength to naturally push the ball there.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think we'll have to worry about a lot of those deep shots, but it's still the underneath stuff that can be problematic for someone like Kareem Jackson, especially with the issues that you have at corner with the way that Damari Mathis and Asong Bossy are. So Kareem Jackson is still a bit of an issue there. Hopefully Justin Simmons is able to read. Justin Simmons every year always tends to have a slow start to the season and then really bounces on. Well, with the loss of Caden Stearns, with the issues that they're having getting after the quarterback in week 1, with the issues they had with Damari Mathis in week 1, they need Justin Simmons now. And this is a good game for Justin Simmons to step up. We have Cody W coming with a $5 donation. If this Commanders team gives them problems, I'm going to hate to watch the Dolphins game. Yeah. I'm already at that point where I don't want to watch this Dolphins game. The amount of speed that the Dolphins have is unmatched by basically anyone on the Broncos defense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is a scary matchup for this Broncos defense. Plain and simple. And it doesn't matter a whole lot of what they're able to do this week. You're about going to change it unless a outstanding pass rush where they're getting pressure almost every single play comes out of nowhere. And I just don't think that's likely to happen.
Me neither. And that Miami Dolphins offensive line, not really the offensive line, but the scheme, what they like to do schematically with the Dolphins offense is obviously the quick pitch, get it out of Tua Tagovailoa's hands, and he reads everything really well. But we need to talk more about him being an upper echelon quarterback in the NFL for what he is actually capable of doing when he's on the field. But the scheme and what this team brings in terms of the speed that matches the scheme, even go back to what the 2017 or 2018 Chiefs, whatever the hell year it was, with Travis Kelce, Damian Wilson, they had Demarcus Robinson, Travis Kelce. Like this Dolphins team has more speed than any team that I can recall ever. And the Broncos don't have the speed to match it in the secondary, plain and simple.
Yeah. Now, going back to the Washington game here, since you took one of their receivers against a defensive back, one of my favorable matchups for the Broncos offense is a wide receiver against a pair of their cornerbacks, because with the way that Ron Rivera plays his corners, we'll probably see both of them against him. And it's the guy that's coming back. He's going to be playing this week, Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy against Kendall Fuller or Emmanuel Forbes. That is a favorable matchup for him. Emmanuel Forbes, obviously, he had all those pick sixes. It's what got him drafted so high, helped get him drafted so high. Mm-hmm. Outstanding athlete, outstanding speed. But when I was watching him, he played all right against the Cardinals, but there was still some second guessing of the plays. There was still some late cuts in his game to stick with receivers. And if Russell Wilson can hit Jeudy in time and accurately, which is a big issue with Russell Wilson that we saw against the efficient passing game it was, but his placement was all over the place on those short passes. Jerry Jeudy can eat up a lot of yards quickly against this Washington Commanders defense. You got to find those opening lanes. They don't have disciplined safeties. Their safeties are very much we're going to take that deep shot out of it, or we're going to take the low shot out of it and leave the other one wide open. And so you have those shots with Jerry Jeudy. And then against Kendall Fuller, he's quick, but at times he's not, he used to be extremely physical as a corner in coverage, but not so much anymore. He's kind of become a little bit more passive and reactionary in coverage, which is still dangerous. Don't get me wrong. It can lead to some interceptions because you're just reacting to the quarterback, reading the quarterback's eyes. Jerry Jeudy is extremely quick, and I think that against both these corners, Jeudy has a favorable matchup.
I don't disagree with you, and I'm going to actually piggyback a little bit off of what you were talking about with Emmanuel Forbes. And I know that you and I went kind of back and forth on this behind the scenes before we went live. Emmanuel Forbes is tall and long, but he is super thin, and he plays on the boundary. And there's going to be opportunities where, and I want to highlight this as much as possible, if you can get Courtland Sutton lined up against Emmanuel Forbes, and with that big body of Courtland Sutton, the route running ability, and just go toe-to-toe with this dude. He's a rookie, obviously. He's got all the pick sixes to his name, but this dude does not handle physicality in any way, shape, or form. He is not the most physical cornerback in terms of playing at the catch point. He's a gambler, and I think that's what you were seeing with him watching the tape against the Arizona Cardinals, in terms of him being a little bit late to read his keys and turn his hips and get himself moving back towards the football. He likes to take chances. He likes to just bait quarterbacks. He likes to get his hands on the football. But when it comes to guys that are bigger than him and go up in those box out situations, he can get bullied around. There was a play. I believe it was a jet sweep that they ran with Rondale Moore or one of the other wide receivers from the Cardinals. They ran a jet motion on a reverse, and Emmanuel Forbes was in trail technique, and he met a tight end out on the outside. And that tight end blew him all the way into the stands, damn near. He knocked him completely off his feet, and whoever was running the jet sweep turned it upfield and ran for another 10 or 15 yards. That, to me, is a big matchup for the Broncos. They need to exploit the lack of physicality from a guy like Emmanuel Forbes. Get him out there in the point of attack, in the running game. Get out there with a big body, push him around, and see what he can do as a cornerback.
Well, that actually kind of works really well with my favorable matchup for the Washington defense against this offense. And I have it as Montez Sweat, Chase Young versus Garrett Bowles and Mike McGlinchey. But really, it's that whole defensive front against this whole offensive line. Well, what's one way that you can keep the interior guys and those edges honest a little bit? Run it to the outside.
Yep.
Be physical and attack Emmanuel Forbes in this case on the boundary with the running game. Use those outside runs. And just try to keep them a little bit honest and second guessing themselves a little bit. you throw in misdirection on top of that, and you just build off of that. You cannot let these guys play one-on-one straight up and expect to have a successful day on offense. 9 times out of 10, I would give this game to the Washington defensive line versus the Broncos offensive line. They are so dominant up front. They have built their defense from the front back. Jonathan Allen, outstanding. One of the most underrated interior defensive linemen in the NFL.
Yeah.
If he had one more pressure in, 2019 or 2018, he'd have 5 straight years of 30 plus stop. He'd have 30 plus stops in the each season. Like, outstanding defender. He's just so quick, and he is so tough to block because he's got a wide arsenal in his repertoire to get after the quarterback, and he uses those to help him get the run. And the linebackers for Washington, they're not great, but they do a good job of watching where Jonathan Allen vacates the hole, and one of them will crash down and fill it. So they'll let him penetrate and have the emergency guy standing there to take over instead of 1.5 gapping or 2 gapping. He is just pure gap shooting basically when it comes to the run. And what helps doing that is that you have Daron Payne. Sure, he doesn't get a lot of pressures, but this dude is really good as a run defender. Then you have Chase Young, who's more than capable both ways, and Montez Sweat, who's more than capable both ways. So it just works so well in unison that, as you were saying, attacking Emmanuel Forbes on the boundary, like how that should be something the Broncos are doing, well, it helps to ease up the issues that they're going to have in the trenches.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right on that. And something to kind of piggyback that is with what Sean Payton likes to do offensively. He likes to pull the guards. That's a big reason why you get Ben Powers into this offensive line in free agency. They like to pull guards, like misdirection, misflow, pull the guard, kick out the defensive end, or even pull fan block with the tackle, get the edge rusher rushing to the outside edge, pull the guard underneath that, kick out the linebacker, run the running back underneath that, get him out onto the boundary against cornerbacks out on the edge. And that's where you exploit Emmanuel Forbes in the running game. Again, and Cody W jumps in here as well. Run some jet sweep stuff. Jet sweep, let Marvin Mims show that speed out there. This is a great way to counteract this edge rush that likes to get up the field. Montez Sweat is a great pass rusher. Chase Young, who's going to be playing this week, great pass rusher. They like to get up the field. You can run underneath that, especially if you get some lead blockers, whether it's a misdirection, pulling guards, whatever you got to do. It's a great matchup up front for the Broncos with what they want to do. I have a big question mark here, and it's one for this Washington defense. And like you said, Jonathan Allen, man. What happened last week with Lloyd Cushenberry up front against the Las Vegas Raiders defensive line, which is not nearly as talented? Lloyd Cushenberry was bullied all over the place. He's got Daron Payne and Jonathan Allen to deal with this week, and those two, like you said, are one of the best, if not the best, interior defensive line combination. And Cushenberry is going to have his hands full. That's going to be the big focal point of this Broncos offense, especially on the offensive line.
To be fair, 90% of his reps will come against Daron Payne, and about the other 10%, he won't play Allen very often.
Right.
But your point still stands, because Daron Payne is much better than John Jenkins, who consistently stood Lloyd Cushenberry up at the point of attack in the run game. And then Ben Powers is the concern here. We all saw how poorly Ben Powers did in the preseason in pass protection. He did well as a run blocker. Got to give him credit there. But Jonathan Allen, he's better than the guys that he was facing in the preseason. Like, he's better than what he faced in Jerry Tillery last week. For most of it, like that's just an integral part of the matchup. Yep. Had a question here that is about talking about wide receivers. Why can none of our wide receivers get yards after the catch? A lot of it is how the offense is, just what they're asking them to do. A lot of it is timing from the quarterback, and I'm not at all using this to try to crap on Russell Wilson. It's just a simple fact of it, is that his placement and timing isn't always the best to give the wide receivers the best yak opportunity. Part of it is that when they do go for those yak plays, the wide receivers aren't necessarily getting the best separation. And I don't want to say, as Todd Osendorf does, is that Sutton struggles to get open now. It's specifically highlighting Sutton. Sutton does well getting open. He did well getting open against the Las Vegas Raiders. The issue is as soon as Dulcich went down, they lost their matchup guy. Their joker, as Sean Payton called him. Greg Dulcich created a lot of matchups for them. As soon as he went down, they were able to shift their coverage effectively, because Adam Trautman, guys, like, he did find his receiver, he picked up a lot of yards, but he's not going to do anything after the catch. That's not his game. So they're able to shift their focus a little bit about that. Instead of having to try to have somebody down on Dulcich to keep up with him and his athleticism, you don't have to worry about that as much as Trautman does. So they're able to shift their coverage, and that significantly changed what the offense was able to do. And it doesn't help that when the big plays were there, when those shots the receivers were there, Russell Wilson was dumping it off. I know before we went live, there's a lot of talk about Kurt Warner's breakdown of it. It's a really good breakdown, and he raises a lot of good points.
He does.
And there's some that I agree with. There are some that I disagree with, that he's putting more on Wilson than should be there. But there are multiple plays that you can look back that the wide receivers didn't make a play because Wilson didn't find him in time.
Yeah. There's a handful of Facebook comments here. I'm not sure if they have stars attached to them. We don't have Scott here tonight, so I do want to make sure that we get as many of these comments as humanly possible. But something to piggyback on your Adam Trautman comment there. Adam Trautman is diet Noah Fant. Like, he's a guy that can at least hold his own in terms of the like run blocking, not a guy that you really want to be out there at the point of attack and really dominating in the running game. But he's a guy, like, he's a reliable pass catcher. He's not going to break a lot of tackles. He needs open space to be able to get out and go work with the football in his hands. Noah Fant was the exact same way. And that, to me, is a big reason why you're not seeing these yak opportunities. Your yak opportunity guys in Jerry Jeudy are gone. KJ Hamler is obviously not on the team right now. He visited with the Colts last week. Brandon Johnson is not a yak guy. Cortland Sutton's not a yak guy. Tim Patrick, who's on injured reserve, is not a yak guy. They don't have those guys. They just don't. They don't have them right now. And hopefully getting Jerry Jeudy back is going to help with that. Losing Greg Dulcich hurts that as well. Trautman's not a guy that can go out there and create these yards after the catch opportunities. And Phil McLaughlin jumping in here as well, saying, guys, what do you think about getting Cody Latimer to help while Dulcich is out? He played pretty good last year in the XFL. That's not a yak guy. And in my particular opinion, he was more of a vertical threat, a big body jump ball, go and get the football at the point of attack guy, more than a true elite, get the ball out in space and make him miss some tackles and run after the catch. Latimer also, I don't think is an NFL talent anymore at this particular point in his career. I don't think that he has it. I don't think he ever had it, quite honestly.
I don't know if he never had it. I don't know if many people know why he flamed out in Denver, why he never really got a real opportunity under Peyton Manning.
It's because Peyton Manning hated him.
Yeah, Peyton Manning didn't care for him because he just didn't know the offense. He didn't care enough about learning the offense.
Yep.
I can't imagine that would sit over very well with Sean Payton. Cody Latimer hasn't played in the NFL since 2019?
Something like that, yeah.
It was before the COVID year. So I'm just not sure. Like, guys in the XFL, like, we've seen it before. We've seen guys go into the XFL or these other football leagues, and they do well. They come to the NFL, and not a lot of it carries over. Very, very rare for that. Cody Latimer, he's either 30. He's on the wrong side of 30. I don't know his exact age at the moment. I'm just not sure how much he has left in the tank at this point. And thank you, Peter, for commenting that Phil had stars. Appreciate that. Obviously, we cannot see stars on our end, so we always appreciate you when you're able to point them out a little bit. Now, going on, and I wanted to keep talking about this Denver offensive line versus the Washington defense. Oh, real quick. Cody W. coming in with $5. Could have had yards after the catch. First game with new wide receivers that stepped out of bounds. They'll be coached out of them. No worries there. Yeah, so the Philip Brooks.
I know exactly where you're going.
That wasn't the best route. That wasn't the best place throw. There were so many issues with that play. I don't think it would have been a touchdown. So many issues with that play. It's not just on one guy. It would have been a big play. Would have been an explosive play for the offense that they needed.
Yep.
Would it have mattered in the overall outcome of it? I'm not entirely sure.
I don't disagree with that sentiment, but I do think that maybe the perception here of the lack of explosive plays from this Broncos offense would have changed a little bit.
No.
It's not. So let me finish my thought here. It's not going to change much in terms of that. But that was the one really, truly explosive play that the Broncos had in terms of catching the football, turning upfield, and running after the catch. They had on the first drive, they had Russell Wilson rolling out to his right side, hitting Brandon Johnson for 21 yards. That's an explosive play. They had another technically, well, they're not explosive plays in terms of yardage, but the 2 touchdown passes, those are technically explosive plays.
No,
but in terms of stretching the field,
explosive plays is yardage, is chunks.
I understand
that is an explosive
play. Right, and I get that. There was another one that they had Cortland Sutton on the pass interference play that would have been a big chunk yardage. In fact, they got a big chunk out of that because of pass interference. To me, though, I guess I want your opinion on this because the Broncos right now, currently as it's structured, they have 2 players that have explosive play potential. They're both rookies in Marvin Mims and Jaleel McLaughlin. They both have explosive play potential in terms of their speed. I guess my question here is, why not try to incorporate those 2 guys more in the offense? Why is Lil Jordan Humphrey getting the run? Why is Brandon Johnson getting the run? If you need to create those explosive plays, why not utilize the playmakers that you have?
You mean you shouldn't use your small and light running back as a dump off guy to get hit for negative yards? He had 3 touches for negative 11 yards. Not a single one was positive.
I love it.
And it's not that those aren't on Russell Wilson. That was on the pressure. Like, the line was beat pretty early, like on 2 of those because they were passes to McLaughlin. Yeah, you have explosive playmakers out there, and I'll disagree a lot with what you were saying. That one play from Philip Dorsett, that wasn't the only explosive play that they had. They had others. They had that one Samaj P. Ryan 20-yard catch. Mm-hmm. They had a few of them. Mm-hmm. But I don't think 2 or 3 total explosive plays changes the narrative that they're lacking explosive plays. Like, even adding that 1 to it, you're now making it 3 or 4. It still doesn't change the narrative that they were lacking explosive plays. The offense lacked explosive plays. Explosive plays, how many yards can you pick up quickly in a chunk play? If it was a 60-yard touchdown, that's a explosive play. Mm-hmm. 5-yard touchdowns aren't explosive plays.
Right.
Philip Dorsett, like, he could do that, but drops have always been an issue with him. Route running has always been an issue with him. So it was mind-boggling to me about why he got the run that he did when you have Marvin Mims there, who you traded up to draft as your first pick in this. As the Broncos head coach, you traded up to get Marvin Mims. Do you know how many snaps he played all game on offense?
It was low double digits, like 11 or 12.
19.
19, okay.
He played 19 snaps on offense. He got targeted twice. And there were like 3 other plays where he was open, and for what would have been an explosive play, but one thing or another didn't lead to it. Part of that's on Wilson. Part of that's on the offensive line. Part of that is on Peyton. There were just a lot of issues with it, with why they weren't getting explosive plays. I'm not buying that the defense wasn't allowing it, because when I went back and I focused on that secondary, there were plenty of opportunities for it. They were open. So they got to figure that out. And yeah, the Dorsett one, that was a missed opportunity. Yeah. And what sucks more about that, and that people aren't realizing this, is after that, the mindset of the Broncos changed. They went from, we're going to go and march on the field to score a touchdown, to, we're going to settle for a 50-yard field goal. It was the missed field goal drive.
Yeah.
It was a complete change of mindset. And from that one play, just mind-boggling to me. Like, Sean Payton's a great coach, but there were multiple things in this game that he should be getting questioned over.
Yeah, absolutely. First off, I wrote an article about it at Mile High Huddle on Monday or Tuesday, I believe it dropped. Sean Payton made the wrong decision on 4th and 3. Eric, you and I have gone back and forth on this a couple different times. We both agree on it. 4th and 3 with 6 minutes left, or shortly after 6 minutes left, Broncos just got stopped on a Adam Troutman getting tackled out in the open field like Noah Fant always did. 4th and 3, 2 timeouts left, 5 minutes remaining in the game. Why the hell are you punting the football? What exactly has your defense done to make you believe that they could stop the Raiders offense? Because quite honestly, they hadn't done it all game long. You got a forced punt late in the first half where the Raiders were kind of trying to just get rid of the football at that particular point. They had 3 10-plus play drives that resulted in scores. They also had the 10-plus play drive that resulted in a tip pass interception in the end zone where they were going to score another touchdown, quite honestly. And you're going to rely on your defense to go out there and make a stop? Sorry, I disagree with that thinking. I give the goddamn football to your running backs who have rushed for 4.5 yards per carry. Oh God, it pisses me off. I'm sorry.
We could spend a whole hour going over why that was the wrong decision.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I know that people run the numbers and everything like that about the odds and if it was the right decision. And I think technically it came out as the right decision to punt it. I disagree with that. I disagree with that mindset. I disagree with the thinking. You've lost 6 straight to the Raiders at this point. It's your season opener at home. You're trying to send a message. You're trying to show that you're going to get things right on the back on track as the head coach. Your defense, as you were saying, they're struggling. Like all these reasons for it, all these extra factors that go into it that just running the pure numbers don't include, like, should have gone for it. Defense was getting gaslit so much. But anyways, back to Washington in this game. Hopefully we see Marvin Mims for it a little bit. As Peters comes in and says, not many plays really, but means the opposition might not know yet what he's going to be doing. That is one thing, but it's a thing of you can't keep secrets for too long in the NFL. If you are, you're going to lose games, as the Broncos did. Everyone knows, and also there's less secrets in the NFL than people realize, especially when it comes to what players can do.
Yep.
Everyone knows Marvin Mims is an explosive playmaking wide receiver. How did they know that? Because they've all watched his college football tape. They all know what he was able to do there and what they're going to be looking for him to bring to the Broncos offense. They all know that. This is a game for Marvin Mims for them to utilize him, especially with Greg Dulcich out. Jerry Jeudy coming back. Well, now your matchup makers should be Jerry Jeudy and Marvin Mims.
Yep.
You cannot use this quick 5-yard passing dink and dunk that you were using. You cannot go back to relying on penalties on 3rd down to keep drives alive as you did against the Raiders. All 3 of Broncos scoring drives against the Raiders were extended after they failed a 3rd down drive because of a penalty. Successful offenses don't do that.
Yep.
It worked.
No.
Well, no, it didn't work because they lost the game. But anyways, they scored points. So it worked. Right. You can't rely on that. So Mims and Jeudy, those got to be your guys to dictate your matchups, especially against the secondary that the Commanders have.
And a big thing here is winning quickly at the line of scrimmage. Like, because we've already talked about this Washington Commanders defensive line. It's going to be immense pressure. We just faced Baba Yaga, the boogeyman, one of the best pass rushers in the NFL in Max Crosby. And quite honestly, we need to talk more about Mike McGlinchey and what he was able to do against Max Crosby, because he actually nullified what Crosby was able to do. 1 sack
in the run game.
Well, even in the passing game, though, he got a handful of pressures, got 1 sack, but he didn't dominate the game. McGlinchey at least held him at, I don't want to say rendered him useless, but he did do a very good job in the passing game.
Let's put it this way. He got a pressure 1 almost every 4.5 or 5.5 snaps. That's a dominant pass rush performance. A pressure every
is.
5.5 times.
Yeah,
and if you want, and that's taking away the one pressure he got against Garrett Bowles. So he picked up 5 pressures, including a sack, against Mike McGlinchey on, at that point, 33 passing attempts.
Right. Well, so I want to see more on, and I know they chipped and double teamed them. I want to know more about what they did with Troutman and Chris Manhertz, and that's a complete different conversation. Regardless, you're talking about one guy on the Las Vegas Raiders defensive line that is capable of creating massive amounts of pressure, and the Broncos at least did a fairly decent job of holding him out of the game and not letting him get 5.5 sacks against this offensive line. This defensive line for the Commanders is going to be crazy. It's going to be insane.
So with Max Crosby too, is like Mike McGlinchey took him out of the running game. But the passing game, that's where you lose me a little bit. Like, 1 sack is still enough. 1 sack is just about what he averages against the Broncos. What normally is the difference maker for Max Crosby against the Broncos is that he dominates in the running game, and they were able to limit that.
Yep.
But it still does lead an issue of that. Yep. This time, it's not just Max Crosby that you have to deal with and a rookie Tyree Wilson. You have Chase Young, you have Jonathan Allen, you have Deron Payne, and you have Montez Sweat. You have a threat all along that front 4 now. You cannot focus your chip on one side of the line anymore.
Yep.
Like, that is going to make things a lot more difficult for these guys, which is why it's so critical that Marvin Mims and Jerry Jeudy be able to come back and step up and get open quickly. But I want to flip this over a little bit to the other side of it, or the other trench battle that's going on, because their offensive line's pretty decent. Not great by any means, but it's pretty decent. And obviously, a big key for this game is the Broncos got to get their pass rush going. I saw somebody in the comment earlier ask about Zach Allen. Starting off with Zach Allen real quick, and then I'll pass it off to you, Lance. Zach Allen is making over $17 million this year. He had a good game against the Raiders as a run defender. You are not paying him $17 million this year to be just a good run defender. You are not paying Randy Gregory the money you are for him to get, no pressures?
Zero.
The Denver Broncos had as many pressures from linebackers and defensive backs as they did their defensive line and edges. Their only defensive lineman who got a pressure was Mike Purcell.
Oof. Like, that's not a statistic that you want to have. Like, Zach Allen, like you said, $17.5 million this season. He needs to be a guy. And quite honestly, he has a pretty decent matchup. Sadiq Charles, the left guard for the Washington Commanders, he gave up a couple of sacks against the Arizona Cardinals last week. And Victor Dimukeje flat out bull rushed him into Sam Howell's lap. That's not the offensive line matchup you want, though. Sadiq Charles is a
Zach Allen will be mostly going against Sam Cosmi, just to be clear.
Right. So on the other side, you got Jonathan Harris and DJ Jones, and DJ Jones could be playing on the inside of that as well. Like, if Zach Allen goes against Sadiq Charles, that's a fun matchup to watch. But the real matchup to watch here is Randy Gregory. This is the game for Randy Gregory to actually step up, because Andrew Wiley at right tackle, he struggles with speed. This dude struggles with speed, struggles with bend, struggles with guys that have length. He wants to play a power running. He wants to play in power in the passing game. He wants to get his hands on you and just kind of hold you down and whatnot. Randy Gregory needs to have a huge game against Andrew Wiley. I have it pulled up here on Pro Football Focus. I don't think that these numbers are right, because Andrew Wiley allowed 3 pressures against the Arizona Cardinals. It seemed like 15. Every time that Andrew Wiley was out there on in pass protection, it seemed like he was getting beat around the edge or getting beat passing off stunts or getting beat to the inside. This dude struggles against speed. And while the Arizona Cardinals defense is not great, Randy Gregory is a dude that has explosive athleticism and has the ability to bend the corner, beat you inside, beat you with length, beat you with speed. I need to see a big game from Randy Gregory this week. Absolutely need to. And to make matters worse, Sam Howell has 0 pocket presence. Absolutely 0 pocket presence. He runs into pressure more often than not. Randy Gregory needs to be a guy. Absolutely needs to be a guy this year.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is like with Randy Gregory, he played well against the run, but it's the same thing as I was saying about Zach Allen. You're not paying him to be just good against the run. You're paying him for so much more. You're paying him to get after the quarterback. And I understand the whole thing of what the Raiders are doing with the offense, how quick they're getting the ball out. But Randy Gregory's a quick pass rusher. He should be able to get more. He should be able to notch at least a single pressure, even when the Raiders are getting the ball out quickly. There were so many times where everyone on that front, Cooper, Benito, Clark, it didn't matter who was out there. They're just getting stood up at the line. Mm-hmm. Time and time again, Jimmy Garoppolo had the cleanest of pockets to sit there and work with. You got to get more out of these guys, and this is an offensive line that you really need to do that, especially because we talked about it a little bit earlier. Sam Howell is basically a rookie. Like,
yep.
He's not technically a rookie, but he's a rookie to starting, essentially. He's still very young, still learning how to be an NFL quarterback. He's smart, but he can hold on to the ball. He can choose to look off reads and go to different ones. He holds the ball.
Yep.
Your pass rush has to get there. And to do that, getting your pass rush there, that's going to help out your corners a little bit. Sure, your corners still need to hang in their coverage long enough for your pass rush to get there. But you got to, get after the quarterback. You got to get there so that they're not having to cover for 3 seconds, because the standard thing is 2.5 seconds, and your corners are going to lose. Doesn't matter how good your corner is. Champ Bailey would lose reps after 2.5 seconds. Patrick Surtain has lost reps after 2.5 seconds. 2.5 seconds is about the standard of what you want, about the average standard. Anyways, K-Hop coming in here. Someone said Gregory had 0 sacks, 0 pressures, 155 claps, and trash talk six times. Yeah, that is something with Randy Gregory that I had going back to last year's preseason against the Cowboys. Like, dude can trash talk. Back it up.
Yeah. So my question that I wanted to bounce off of that comment from K-Hop here is, when I watched the pass rush, even with the twists, the stunts, the blitzes, and everything that the Broncos did, those edge rushers, they didn't seem to really press the issue. And listening to Vance Joseph's comments about mostly being the scheme and trying to limit escape lanes and stuff like that, to me, that's an issue. Why not utilize your guys with the speed and bend that they have, the hand fighting ability that they do have, and just run them out there and go play patty cake? Because quite honestly, that's what it looked like. They'd get off the ball, they stand their hands up, and they stand their shoulders up, and then just play patty cake. They throw their hands around and not really try to drive into tackles. They wouldn't try to create many counter rush moves. It was more like a contained pass rush that was very conservative. They didn't really try to force the issue, even when they did bring extra pressure with the A gaps, with the linebacker blitzes and stunts that they like to run in the Vance Joseph defense. Is that something that you saw as well? Or maybe am I seeing it the wrong way here? Because I thought that there was an advantageous position for these edge rushers to really bend around the quarter with speed, and they never did it.
So here's my issue, and it's with Vance Joseph's comment. It's with what we saw on the field. Even if you are selling out to stop the run, you cannot sell out so much to where you are beat through the air. That's my first issue with it.
Yeah,
you just can't do it. It's just like in coverage, you can't sell out to stop one receiver because another guy's just going to beat you. My second problem is there comes a point where it's obvious that it's not a run. So it doesn't matter once you hit that point. If you are sitting there and staying disciplined, and you still need to stay disciplined in line. I shouldn't say that doesn't matter. You don't need to stay disciplined to your run fit on if it was a run. You still got to be cautious of the quarterback taking off.
Right.
We can be a little bit more aggressive with getting after the quarterback. No, we didn't see it. We're just standing there. We're not going to do a whole lot. It's just a lot of issues. K-Hop coming in here going on this because somebody else grabbing another comment that pairs with this.
Oh,
I thought Vance Joseph didn't blitz a lot last game. Oh no, he did. He blitzed a lot, the most in the NFL in week 1. The Broncos blitzed the most, and they had a pressure the third least amount of pressure percentage, or the third lowest pressure percentage.
I got to remember off.
What's a lot?
It was like 40.
It was like 44. It was about 44% to 18% pressures.
Yep.
But 44% of the time with 18% pressures, give or take a little bit there. I can't remember the exact numbers. So yeah, they were blitzing.
Just couldn't get home.
A lot. Just couldn't get home. William Catalano comes in. This is what VJ does. Blitz consistently and get beat. Yeah, this was my big issue is I defended Vance Joseph, and I still would. Vance Joseph's defensive units have done a lot better than a lot of Bronco fans think.
Mm-hmm.
The issue is that he does not know how to balance his aggression, which leads to them losing games. It led to Arizona losing games. You got to balance out that aggressiveness, especially depending on what quarterback you're playing. Jimmy Garoppolo is one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL against blitz. Patrick Mahomes is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL against blitz. You can't sit there and blitz those guys 44% of the time. Those are guys where you need to trust your guys up front to win their one-on-one matchups and drop more into coverage.
Yep. My one counterpoint to that is you also have to trust your coverage guys on the outside, especially on the boundary. And I'm going to give you an example from this Thursday night football game. Brian Flores, the Minnesota Vikings defensive coordinator, everybody knows this dude is running zero blitz on third down. Plain and simple, he's going to run zero coverage, zero single high safety, press man coverage, and blitz on third down. Jalen Hurts hit Devontae Smith on a 70-yard post route for a touchdown on third down because the cornerback that was playing against Devontae Smith on the outside didn't get a jam. And he thought that he had help over the top. Mm-hmm. That's a problem. You have to understand your players have to know what your scheme is actually going to do and understand we are playing press man coverage here. That means you get your hands on the goddamn receiver in front of you. You jam them off the line of scrimmage and you know you don't have help over the top. VJ does that a lot. He likes to get pressure. But when he gets pressure, what is the cornerback's responsibility on the outside? Get your hands on the receiver in front of you. Jam them off the line of scrimmage. You can play press inside 5 yards. If you don't get your hands on the receiver in front of you and disrupt the timing of the play, they're beating you over the top every damn time. And that's a problem. Like, you have to understand with your players, you have to coach them the right way and understand and make them understand your responsibility. Inside leverage, jam. Make them force to the outside, cover the inside shoulder, run with them vertically. If you have outside leverage, you jam them to the inside, force them to the inside leverage defender, bail back to your zone. That's a big problem with what is going on with this Broncos secondary right now, specifically Damari Mathis. I don't want to go back there and bury him. This dude did not play with the right leverage. He did not understand what the scheme is asking him to do, and he got burned multiple times over and over and over again. It happens all over the NFL. Your players have to play to the scheme. They have to play to their responsibilities. They have to understand exactly what your defensive scheme or offensive scheme is asking of them to do. And that is a big reason why the Broncos lost against the Raiders. It's a huge reason why. Absolutely a huge reason why. You can't blame Vance Joseph for designing the scheme if his players don't play to it.
Well, yeah, sorry. Damari Mathis not playing to leverage is a big reason why they lost because he allowed 2 touchdowns that way.
Exactly. 100% yes. 100% yes.
I'm just making fun of you for pointing out the obvious there.
But is my point wrong?
Like, no, it's not. No, it's not. It's not. Like, it's pretty obvious. Like, of course, it's a big reason why they lost. Now, before we get out of here, Washington Commanders. What do you think? Like, I don't want to ask for the score prediction because we have the Mile High Huddle score roundtable score predictions. They're up on milehighhuddle.com. Make sure you guys go check them out. I know a few people picked the Broncos to lose this one and start off 0-2. So I don't want to ask for your score prediction. So let's go. I'll go back to this. We'll do this instead of score predictions. Chat, let us know your guys' score predictions and go ahead and throw in a bold prediction there.
Please do.
Bold prediction for the Broncos offense, bold prediction for the Broncos defense.
Bold prediction for the Broncos offense. I think we'll get 300 yards passing this week. I really do. especially with Jerry Jeudy coming back, and hopefully we see some unleashed ability of Marvin Mims getting some verticality against this. It's a Tampa 2 defense. They like to run 2 deep stuff, drop the linebackers over to the middle of the field, but that really opens up the underneath routes. And if you have speed underneath, it really allows for yards after the catch scenarios. And if you can get Marvin Mims and you can get Jerry Jeudy working mesh concepts where they cross over the top of each other, and get Russell Wilson to read it the right way, you can create a lot of open space opportunities against this Washington Commanders defense. So I think you can get 300 yards passing against this defense.
So
for
real
the
quick,
go ahead.
Real quick on that. Do you know what type of defense Russell Wilson statistically does the worst against?
It's Tampa 2.
Do you know how many games he's had over 250 yards against the Tampa 2 defense?
Not very many, because he likes to press the issue and force the seams.
He's only had one over 225 and 2 over 200, if I'm remembering correctly. I know it's none over 250, but so that makes it a bold prediction. Like I'm not disagreeing with you. That's why it seems like it's such a bold prediction. To me, real quick before you get to your defense one, I'll give one of my ones for the offense. Now, tomorrow I am doing an article that will be up sometime tomorrow night about bold predictions. So I don't want to pull one of those bold predictions that I have up on it. So instead, I'm going to go with the Broncos allow no sacks.
Man, that's bold. That's real bold. It's hard for me, especially knowing Chase Young is going to play, and he's going to be coming against Mike McGlinchey
on a snap count, to be fair.
Well, still, though, I mean, you get that, and then you get Montez Sweat, who is a speedy, twitchy, explosive pass rusher off the other side, on the left side, against Garrett Bowles. And you and I talked about this last week with Tyree Wilson. Tyree Wilson is a powerful bull rusher type. Garrett Bowles handles power just fine. It's a big reason why I thought he handled the few snaps he had against Max Crosby just fine. Crosby's not a twitchy guy. He is a technician. He's a speed to power guy and beat you with technique. Montez Sweat will bend around the corner and dip underneath your freaking back leg so fast. And that's bold to me, because Bowles has always had that issue. Get me three holding penalties against Bowles this week. Sure. I'm there for that conversation, but
it's a good thing that Sweat will mostly go against McGlinchey then, right?
Do I have the sides wrong? I might have the sides wrong on that. Okay. Well,
they line up Chase Young and Allen off the left guard, left tackle.
Okay, so I read the numbers wrong on that. My bad. Regardless, like it's not a favorable matchup for this Broncos offensive line. Regardless, so 0 sacks is definitely very bold.
So we gotta get out of here. We got the alert here, so we got to run through the goodbye. We're not going to, unless we can do it quickly. Bold prediction for the defense here: the Broncos pick up 5 sacks. What's your quick bold prediction for the Broncos defense?
I was going to say a high sack number was the one. 3 turnovers from the Broncos defense is another good one. We got to get out of here though, guys. Thank you all for joining us here on a wonderful Friday evening. You guys can follow us on Twitter by finding me at @LanceS_MHH, and for Eric at Erick Trickel. Also, guys, at Mile High Huddle to find all of our wonderful creative content across anything you want for Denver Broncos content. You guys can find us all there. Facebook supporters, make sure you guys jump in to I got to find it. Never mind. You know what? We got to get out of here. I do apologize for the abbreviated closer here.
We got yelled at behind the scenes, guys. We're sorry.
Yeah. It's all good. You all stay safe and take care. Have a great rest of your weekend. And as always, go Broncos. We'll see you guys same time, same place next week.